So, I was sitting at a bus stop on a middle of the day at the end of the week, and I was waiting for the number 4 bus to take me to the center of Tel Aviv, where I was told I could get the best pizza in the Middle East. And so I'm waiting for the bus to come. And as I'm waiting there, a soldier sits down next to me, and he puts his M16 down, his rifle down next to him, and he's waiting for his bus. And we're sitting there, the two of us, ignoring the fact that we're pretending to ignore each other, and we're waiting in silence. And it's awkward. And then he says, "You're an American, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." And he takes my Walkman out of my hands. This was the days of the Walkman, long before the cell phone, in a time where two people could sit at a bus stop and actually acknowledge each other. I knew what he was doing, right? He's trying to fill that space that's created between two people sitting at a bus stop without a cell phone to hide in and to go to Facebook or some other app and ignore the person next to you. He said, "So what is it you're doing in this country, American?" No, let me guess. You're either a student or you're a tourist. He was igniting that sense that happens between two people at a bus stop without a cell phone. It was awkward. The great thing about awkwardness is that if you give it a chance, if you allow yourself to really soak in awkwardness, you can learn a lot about life, your life. I said I'm a teacher. I'm teaching teenagers here in Israel all about a bunch of different stuff. He's already got the batteries out of my battery case. And he holds one up to the sky. He's got his finger and his thumb holding this battery. He reads the line of the battery. He says, "Duracell. This is a good battery, American. What do you teach?" As he's trying to put it back in the battery case. And I said, "AIDS. I teach teens about HIV and AIDS." And he's, it's hard to get a battery in the battery case, right? Because you got to look for the minus with the minus and the plus with the plus. So he's lining up the positive with the positive, and he's trying to get it just right. And he says, "Do you have it, American?" And it snaps into place. HIV, I mean. Are you HIV positive? So I looked down the road to see if my bus or his bus or any bus was coming. There was no bus. And so I looked into his eyes and I said, "Yes." The second battery that you put back into the battery case, it's really easy. You just kind of flip it over and it snaps into place. He didn't even look. He said, "Did you get it by having unsafe sex?" And I said, "Yes." He slides the battery case cover onto the back of the Walkman, and it clicks into place. He turns it over, and he's now run out of things to do with my Walkman, his prop, and he's got the big one now, the big question that he wants to ask, the one you want to know. And now it's going to get awkward, and that's good, right? Because awkwardness is an opening, it's an invitation to really good stuff like vulnerability and intimacy and truth. So he asks, "So, did you get infected with HIV by having unsafe sex with another man?" I look down the road, and there's still no bus. I look into his eyes, and I said, "Yes." Here's the great thing about awkwardness. If you try it on, it opens you up to being vulnerable, which means you're going to get intimate and start learning truths about yourself or the other person. So he says, "There's something I always wanted to know about, people like you with HIV. So I'm going to ask, do you run? Is it okay to run? And do you pray? Do you believe in God? And do you dance? Because dancing is important." I think essentially what he was asking was, are you like me? Are we the same? Because awkwardness leads to connection. And so I said, "Yes, I run and I pray a lot. And I dance too." So then he does this amazing thing. He gives me back my Walkman like he's giving me a gift. He goes like this. He goes, "Here, I want you to have this." And it occurred to me in that very moment that sometimes the gift we give people isn't the gift itself, but it's the way the gift is tendered. It's the awkwardness that's holding on to the authenticity, that's holding on to the gift that we give to people, because really what he was saying was, I want you to have this because I like you, and I kind of want you to like me. Awkwardness leads to intimacy. The first time I encountered or discovered this thing about awkwardness, it was my first dance class. And the teacher comes in and she says, okay, today I'm going to teach you all about the most important thing you need to know about being a dancer. And it's not about choreography or musculature. So here's what she says. She said, hold out your hand and let me see your palm. And we're all looking around and thinking, this is going to be easy. And she says, okay, so show me who you are in the palm of your hand. And show me your truth in your open hand. Show me if you can be vulnerable with your body. And now we realize it's not as easy. She said, and I quote, if you could show me my wounds on your body, my wounds on your body, you will remind me of my truth and you will heal me and you will be a dancer. Her name was Leah Kreutzer, my first dance teacher, and I didn't really understand what she was getting at then, but I do now. I think she was saying that inside of each and every one of us is an innate sense of worthiness, an innate goodness that can never ever be denied, an innate sense of worth that can never ever be ignored, unfriended, and most of all, unloved. It's the resting pulse of your enoughness. Leah Kreutzer, my dance teacher, was trying to explain to us that if we have the courage, right, to really stand in the vulnerable, that we become porous, that energy and beauty can't help but shine through us, that we don't have to do very much to be beautiful, to be seen, to be. I didn't understand that back then. I couldn't imagine being beautiful. I'm not enough, I thought. I got infected with HIV because a man said to me, I like your smile. I like your pecs. I like what I see. And I heard the words, I like you, I love you. He never said, I love you. He said, I like your pecs. And I didn't know how to respond with something like, thanks, but we still need to use a condom. Because to say those exact words, right, we still need to use a condom, that's really awkward. It's so awkward that, in fact, when I travel around the country teaching HIV education in high schools, I'm told not to say the word condom. That's how awkward it is. So, you are enough. And do you know that? A few years after I got infected with HIV, I met a man named John Fletcher Harris who would soon die of AIDS, but he said this next sentence to me that I want you to remember. I watched the words form in his mouth and then dance around the room when he said it. He said, when a tree reaches up to drink in the sun, it never asks itself if it is deserving. It doesn't say, I can't, I'm too fat. Or I shouldn't because I'm so gay. I'm not enough. It's photosynthesis, right? Photosynthesis, the plant captures the energy of the sun, the light that's given off, right? And it uses it to grow, and in turn it offers up its own energy, oxygen. Photosynthesis. The soldier at the bus stop captured my attention by taking my Walkman, engaging me in a conversation, and asking me questions that made me vulnerable so that he could grow. And in turn, he gave me a gift, my Walkman, and his kindness. You know about being enough, right? Wherever I teach around the country, I talk about being enough. And so many teenagers say to me, I like the idea, but I'm not. I want to be, but I'll never be. And I have a challenge for you today. I want to let you guys in on a secret that I don't think you even tell yourselves, which is this. You know you're enough. When life is good, when life is sweet, when you're fighting for seconds for dessert and you can't wait to get behind the wheel of a car for the first time, or you feel that vibration in your pocket and he's called or she's called back. You know in those moments that you are enough, but in the bad times, in the dark times, when life sucks, we give up this idea that we belong and that we are lovable and that we're enough. I call it the faithful ache. The faithful ache or the unintended wounds of life. What is an unintended wound of life? In the natural order of life, everybody's grandparents die first, right about now, when you're a teenager or soon. And sometimes parents get divorced, and sometimes the cancer comes back. And sometimes we can't lose the weight or we can't get the GPA high enough. And then there's that time that we give our body to this other person who doesn't acknowledge us the next day at school or online. And each of us knows about the time we looked at ourselves in the mirror and we were repulsed by our own reflection because we thought we're not beautiful and we want to be beautiful. And I'm not just speaking to the girls in this room. Guys want to be beautiful too. The faithful ache, it's this emptiness you feel, right? On a private midnight, it beckons. It's this chasm that's carved out on the landscape of your inner life. When life lends its really hard lessons and you say to yourself, maybe my future is not auspicious. Maybe my destiny isn't exalted. You all feel the faithful ache when you lie to your parents. When they say to you, how was your day? And what did you do? And you say to yourselves, again that question. I don't know how to answer that question because truly I feel so empty and I feel so much and I can't explain all that I'm feeling. So instead we say, fine, nothing, right? And the faithful ache beckons. So what do? How do you deal with that? So this next sentence is the really important sentence, so listen carefully. In the time of the faithful ache, we must give ourselves permission to lament the absence of a perfect life. It's such a good sentence, I'm going to say it again. In the time of the faithful ache, we've got to give ourselves permission to lament the absence of a perfect life. How do you do that? Instead of cutting your skin with an X-Acto knife or a ritual instrument in places your parents will never see, right? Instead of throwing up your lunch or dinner with your finger or a toothbrush down your throat, or driving above the speed limit with a six-pack in the front seat right next to you, or, like I did, having unsafe sex. And by the way, unsafe sex is not sex without a condom. That's unprotected sex. When I say unsafe sex, I mean when you're having sex and you feel unsafe, that you can't say to your partner, stop. Wait, I've changed my mind. When you can't demand consent, when you feel awkward and you don't know how to say, condom, we must use a condom. So what do you do when life presents the faithful ache and you start getting reckless? How about trying this? When life hurts, let it. When life hurts, let it is a really awkward sentence. It's awkward to say. And it's even more awkward to do. I said this sentence, when life hurts, let it, to a group of high school students in a school in New Jersey a couple years ago. So I said, when life hurts, let it. And then an 11th grade teenager sneezed in the second row, and I said, bless you. And then I heard this voice in my head that said, say it again and put it together. So I did. I said, when life hurts, let it. Bless you. When life hurts, let it bless you. John Fletcher Harris, who said that thing about the tree that reaches up to drink in the sun but never asks if it is deserving, also said this next thing about the same tree a few weeks before he died of AIDS. Stand up and let your leaves fall all around you. And with bare branches, expose yourself to the sun. Expose yourself to yourself. Stand in the vulnerable and allow yourself to be porous so that beauty cannot help but shine through you. How do you do that? How do you stand in the vulnerable? How do you live with the faithful ache and still know that you are enough? Awkwardness leads to one more thing, and that's mercy. So this is a picture of mercy as I understand her. So now, I'm going to write a book, my fourth book. It's going to be called Things I Learn About Life While I Listen to My Nephews Play on Their Xbox. Because they won't let me play with the control because they won't give it up. So I listen. So there's 12-year-old Davey, and he's teaching 15-year-old Jacob how to get better at this game, Overwatch. You know the game Overwatch, right? And in the game Overwatch is a character called Mercy. Mercy. Now, I didn't want to pay the licensing fee to get the actual picture of Mercy, but this is my idea of Mercy. She's got diaphanous and gossamer wings, but the real Mercy, right, the one in the game, her wings are made of blades and swords. So, this is an actual quote from Davy to Jacob at the age of 12. He says, go for mercy. Pick mercy. Because the great thing about mercy, he says, is that she can resurrect you. Pick mercy. Because the great thing about mercy is that she resurrects you. So I decided I was going to find out everything I could about this character Mercy, and instead of going to the manual or Wikipedia, I decided I would ask the experts. So I asked a room full of 6th graders in a middle school in San Jose where I was teaching the next week. And I asked them, tell me everything I could know about this character Mercy. Teach me, I asked 6th graders, teach me about mercy. So these are the qualities of mercy as I was taught by these 6th graders. That's a great sentence, the quality of mercy. It's Shakespeare from The Merchant of Venice. But according to these 6th graders, these are the qualities of mercy. She gives you extra power. She's an angel. She revives you and she gives you life. Mercy defends you and strengthens you, and she flies to you to help you and heal you. And when she does, she says, and you know what she says, heroes never die. So in the time of the faithful ache, when we want to give ourselves permission to lament the absence of a perfect life and know that then we are still, even then, enough, choose mercy. So I'm sitting at a bus stop in the middle of the day, the end of the week, and a soldier sits down next to me and he engages me in a conversation, and then eventually he gives me back my Walkman like he's giving me a gift, right? And then his bus pulls up a few feet away from us, not mine but his. And it stops and it makes a screeching halt, and the door opens, and it's the sound of the day starting to rush in, and people get up, and I realize there are people who waited for the bus who are listening to our conversation. And they start to say in Hebrew really loud, Rak shnia and Rak rega, which means, wait a second, wait a moment, I gotta get on the bus. And he gets up to get on the bus. And he says, I got one more question, American. One more. They tell us at night there's an expression in the army that if you listen carefully, you can actually hear the sound of the day burning. So I want to know, when you lie your head on the pillow and close your eyes, do you hear it? The sound of that day that you spent burning. So I looked into his eyes for the last time and I said, yes. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really think I did, but I wanted to connect with him, and it felt to me that he wanted to connect with me, and that's what awkwardness does. It makes us want to connect. And there's a woman standing behind him who had been listening to the whole conversation, and she's nodding her head because she's been in Israel, and she's had to answer that question, and she says, so you know the meaning of time. You know the meaning of time. And he, the soldier, says, and you are just like me. And then he does the most amazing thing. He holds out his hand and he opens his palm and he says, see ya. And he's gone. So tonight, when you close your eyes, I want you to listen for it. I want you to listen for the sound of the day that's burning. The day you lived, the day you loved. How did you measure each moment with mercy? Did you give yourself permission to lament? Did you stand in the vulnerable and allow yourself to be awkward? Because here's the great thing about awkwardness. If you really examine it and soak in it, awkwardness is going to make you feel vulnerable. And vulnerability starts getting you in touch with your truth. And what's true about each and every one of you? You are beautiful. You are enough. So let's get awkward.